is happening, everybody? I hope your weekend is off to a good start, and it is about to get better because I'm here with Ryan. We're going to be breaking down today's NBA slate, and it's an interesting one. We've got 4 games, but there's a lot of injury scenarios, so we're going to be going game by game. We're going to tell you how to handle some of the scenarios today, like Ja Morant being questionable in a late game, Giannis Antetokounmpo being questionable in a late game. We're sponsored by PrizePicks here, and if you guys haven't checked out PrizePicks, have you seen this, Ryan? $1 million they're giving away to some people over there.
I did see that. It would be nice to get a couple of commas in that bank account.
$1 million contest they're running over at PrizePicks. And here's what you need to do. Number 1, sign up at PrizePicks. Use our link, because when you use our link, you get a bonus of up to $100 on your first deposit. You also get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. And every single day throughout the NBA playoffs, PrizePicks is giving one member who places an entry for a 6 flex parlay. They're giving one of them an opportunity to win $1 million. It's selected at random. The only thing you need to do to qualify is enter a 6-leg flex parlay in chance to win $1 million. So go check out PrizePicks. Sign up if you have not done that yet. We've got a bunch of tools over at Stokastic.com as well that'll help you build out PrizePicks player cards like our Pick'em Pro tool. So go check out all the stuff that we have in terms of projections at PrizePicks. And don't forget to sign up using our link. And Ryan, we've got an interesting slate today. It's 4 games. We've got 2 massive injuries. Ja Morant questionable, Giannis questionable, and they're in the 2 last games of the day. So first, I want to ask you this. Do you have any strong leans on whether Giannis or Morant play?
It's the playoffs, man. It's awfully difficult to see what could happen. My lean is, honestly, they both sit just because of Milwaukee can easily take care of business without Giannis if need to be. We see them got a game. Like if they had lost game 2, I think Giannis finds a way to play this game to avoid being down 3-0 in the first round. And then same thing with Memphis. They squeaked out a win at home, and that Ja Morant injury was as nasty as it gets for a hand injury. And he was saying he couldn't even take off his socks after game 1. And you're gonna tell me it's been 6 days since that injury because of the scheduling in LA, because the LA Kings, the Clippers are all playing home playoff games. That's why they've got an extended break, and that's probably going to help Ja Morant potentially play a game in this series. I also think Ja Morant sits. That's just a personal lean. This makes for a very interesting DFS build today because the games are all staggered. We don't have them all tipping off at the same time. It's well worth it taking your early chances on James Harden and Paul Reed, and then waiting for news and later on in the night and mixing and matching with the value that potentially could pop up. Giannis and Ja Morant organically are just going to come in low owned if they do play, which make them excellent tournament plays.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. If I had to guess, right, and I'm not 100% certain either way, but my best guess is that neither Morant nor Giannis plays today. That's the way I'm leaning. And for what it's worth, it does seem like the props, particularly for the Bucks, are priced at sports books as if Giannis is going to sit, and then to a lesser extent, but the same as far as Ja Morant goes as well. So that's at least one way you could also look at it, is it does seem like the way people are betting and the way sports books have these games priced, it does indicate that both Morant and Giannis would be sitting. But I also want to ask you, I know you talked about it there, is that we've got a lot of these really good looking value in the early game because Joel Embiid also hurt. We actually have a key injury in every single game today. Game 1, Joel Embiid is out. Game 2, Kawhi Leonard is out. And then we've got the other 2 players questionable that we already talked about. But here's where it gets tricky. We've got so much value in the first game of this slate. How much of that are you willing to forego or leave lineup spots open to give you the opportunity to late swap later on in the day?
Yeah, the value in that first game, I mean, with Joel Embiid, you're going to have a lot of big interest in some of those Sixers guys. Typically, James Harden and Tyrese Maxey and Paul Reed. Those guys look like outstanding plays. Even Tobias Harris. They're going to play a lot of minutes, and they're going to soak up a lot of the Embiid usage. Embiid hasn't been this himself in terms of usage-wise on this series. It's been kind of the Tyrese Maxey series. He's been awfully impressive in this series in terms of just carrying the offensive load here, especially when James Harden got ejected last game. So I think the value is well worth it here. And there's still a chance those guys can play. So I think if you're to balance out some of your lineup portfolio with some of these guys, I think it's well worth it because I think they're outstanding value options. Doesn't get much better value than Paul Reed in some spots, but see if Paul Reed Paul Reed looks like an outstanding front court value play. Over there in the other teams, it's going to open up things in the wing and the backcourt. So I think Paul Reed looks great, and James Harden looks outstanding as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'll get right into that game. And it is the Philadelphia 76ers on the road against the Brooklyn Nets. As we were saying there is no Joel Embiid. It seems like you on the same page as me. I'm expecting Paul Reed to start. He's been playing backup center minutes in this series, and he's been an excellent fantasy producer the last couple of years whenever he actually gets the opportunity to be on the court. Is that your expectation that Paul Reed ends up moving into the starting lineup?
That'd be my expectation. Non-zero chance they could go small here and throw PJ at the 5 and potentially throw a guy like Niang or Melton, maybe Niang. I don't know. I think there's probably most likely chance that we get him starting at the 5. That's Paul Reed. That'd be my guess. I'd be a little shocked if they go anywhere else. I think Paul Reed can certainly handle a lot of minutes at the 5 in this game. I think if he stays out of foul trouble just looks like an outstanding value option. There's nothing else to it.
Yeah, they could go other directions. My expectation, and now I currently am building out lineups. Now I project the teams. I am assuming a starting lineup of James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker, and Paul Reed. So same starters as usual, but Paul Reed slotting in spot of the injured Joel Embiid. Now, here's the other question I want to ask you, though, because we both are assuming Paul Reed starts, but we don't have that starting unit quite yet. We're going to be getting it at some point during the show. If he comes off the bench, would you still be as interested in Paul Reed? How would you handle him in tournaments if he's coming off the bench and presumably playing backup center minutes?
I think it's obviously a much riskier play. Like I think him starting, I think the minute ceiling can go up to like low 30s. If he's coming off the bench, I'd be shocked if he plays above 24 type of situation. So I would feel a lot more confident in Paul Reed starting. I think there's a crack at an extra rotation. I think everything just irons out for him to play more minutes if he were to start, therefore just making him a better value option on the slate.
And then James Harden, to me, is another piece that's pretty unavoidable. So when I'm building out lineups right now, the two Sixers I get the most of are Paul Reed and James Harden. Now, Harden isn't quite the same player from a fantasy perspective as he was 3-4 years ago. And we used to always have these scenarios where it'd be like, hey, James Harden's playing with Chris Paul and Chris Paul's out. James Harden becomes a 13K player. James Harden's playing with Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook's out. All of a sudden, James Harden's a 14K player. Like we've seen massive price tags in the past when the star teammate of James Harden has been ruled out. He's not quite that guy anymore. But with that said, at a fairly reasonable price point for him, he's my favorite pay-up option on the slate. Not finding it very difficult to go away from him. Paul Reed, James Harden, these are my two favorite pay-up options, my two favorite overall options from the 76ers, and actually my two most exposed players for the entire slate right now. So James Harden, in the absence of Joel Embiid, is he your favorite pay-up option of the day?
Yeah, I'm all about James Harden. I think you're getting him at a discount and triple-double upside. I expect Maxey to soak up a lot of the usage. Don't expect Harden to get like a huge usage bump. He certainly should, but it wouldn't shock if Maxey's just loading. Like as impressive he has been offensively, Maxey just carrying the offensive load. But James Harden is going to pick up a decent amount of usage. He's going to be on the court if he doesn't get ejected. So keep that in mind, and I think it's going to set up Harden to be looking like an outstanding option across the board on every site.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Harden too. Is during the regular season, I know a lot of people know that I do make an effort to reserve lineup spots, and I'll even forego the first game of the slate often when there is later news that's coming out to give myself more flexibility. I just don't think you play this slate that way, considering the first game of the day is that game where Joel Embiid is not going to be out there. So a ton of Harden for me, a ton of Paul Reed. Beyond these two, though, who are the other priorities from the 76ers with Embiid out?
Oh, we got to be looking at Tyrese Maxey. I think Tyrese Maxey, I know he's playing really well. Maybe people are getting a little bit of sticker shock, but playoff pricing, everyone's like at a playoff discount just to be able to get in a couple studs in terms of lineup enjoyment process and for casuals there. So I think Maxey looks like an awesome guy. And going back to your Harden, the Harden situation, like avoiding Harden is like you're potentially avoiding the highest. He could certainly be the highest scoring player on the slate with the situation played at hand. So I think you would certainly want some exposure to James Harden today. I think it'd be a mistake to completely full fade him. That's just how I look at it. And Maxey certainly should play all the minutes he can handle. Could be the leading shot attempt player on the Sixers. So, I mean, shot attempts and shooting the ball is the quickest way to fantasy points. And I think Maxey has a red carpet towards that. And he's going to grade out just looking even at our boom bust. I think just taking some chances on him make a lot of sense.
We've got a super chat here from Ace of Spade. He's asking his normal question. Thank you for the super chat, Ace of Spade. He wants to know my favorite players at each tier for DK tiers. I've got you covered. Tier 1, I right now have it as Giannis, but if Giannis gets ruled out, that would become Anthony Davis for me in tier 1. Tier 2, Kevin Durant. Tier 3 is James Harden. Your options there are James Harden or Russell Westbrook. Considering Embiid is out, I think Harden is the guy to go to. Tier 4, Bam Adebayo. Tier 5, really close for me between Tyrese Maxey and Norman Powell, but I do lean with Tyrese Maxey over Norman Powell. Tier 6 is Nick Claxton. And one thing that's always a little tricky for me is when you get a player like Joel Embiid ruled out, it's not all that difficult to look at some of the on-off court numbers and see who really benefits from the 76ers. What becomes a little bit harder is figuring out how does it impact the Nets and their side of the game, because the 76ers defense is clearly much worse with Joel Embiid out. But the thing I'm getting at here ultimately is that Nick Claxton stands out to me in tier 6 because not only does he project well, but then also it stands to reason that there's a boost that he's going to be getting in the absence of Joel Embiid. Now, Ryan, the other thing I think we should talk about here is, we've talked about players who are really popular. Talked about Tobias Harris potentially getting a usage bump. We love Paul Reed, love James Harden, love Tyrese Maxey. There's a lot of good chalk from the 76ers. Are there any contrarian players that are not picking up a lot of steam do you think could be a good way to differentiate value you're getting from Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think Tobias Harris is just always going to be a contrarian play throughout these playoffs. And I think that's certainly someone to look at just because of lack of Joel Embiid. Tobias is going to play a lot of minutes. He was very impressive the first couple games. And he's been playing really well in this series. I was talking to our resident 76ers expert during the game over Lofty about how Tobias Harris has been really impressive offensively in this series. And I think it wouldn't shock me to take some chances on Tobias Harris at a little depressed ownership. He certainly could be just automatic in the mid-range and getting open on some of those Harden assists and getting some extra shots that Embiid would take sprinkled his way. So Tobias Harris would be the other Sixer that I look at.
Yeah, and people are bringing up in the chat, the playoff rotations could be a little bit hard to predict. I was fairly high on Time Lord, Robert Williams yesterday. And what ends up happening, Grant Williams plays a bunch of the backup center minutes and just buried me. Grant Williams had not played a minute in the playoffs. There was no reason for me to expect he was going to play. And then not only does he play, he plays a significant role. He broke the slate last night, super low owned, 0.3%, but still extremely annoying. These rotations could change from time to time for sure. Got a super chat from Hunter Schwartz directly at you, Ryan. He wants to know, who are your top 5 Yahoo plays for today?
Top 5 Yahoo plays? Give me a moment. I really like, as ridiculous as it sounds, I think Russell Westbrook is $34. He's pretty excited to go to. It's worth taking some chances on the 3-0 Nets, down 0-3 to the Sixers and Mikal Bridges and Dinwiddie. They're going to play around 40-plus minutes. It's do or die for this Nets team. Their series could be over today. So I think taking some chances on both Dinwiddie and Bridges and Westbrook make a lot of sense. And then the other guys, Norm Powell. That puts me at 4. And Paul Reed. I think that those are 5 guys who I'm taking a look right now. And an honorary option is James Harden. He comes in at $37. I think James Harden is elite. So I give you 6 plays.
There we go.
Do with what you want to do with that.
Only asked for one in the super chat, and Ryan, being nice, gave him out an extra man. They're almost filled out the entire lineup there. So thank you very much for the super chat, Hunter. We do appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to bring up from the 76ers? If not, we can move on to the Nets.
Definitely a non-zero chance they go small. PJ Tucker could start and immediately throwing in D'Anthony Melton at the 5. I think I want to say there's a 20% chance that could happen. So keep your head ready for that starting lineup. We will get that. And if Melton starts, Greg, I like getting to some D'Anthony Melton. I'll feel a bit confident in his minutes. Those minutes could go up. 230. He did close the game there with no James Harden. He played 30 minutes last game out. He had a very impressive steal and dunk where it was Mikal Bridges had a brain lapse on the play there. And Royce O'Neal threw the ball straight to DeAnthony Melton for a pick six dunk at the other end. So if Melton starts and Tucker at the 5, get ready to play some DeAnthony Melton. I think he'll make for a solid option as well.
So let's talk about the Nets side of the game, and it's do or die time for the Nets. I always say that I don't love the term must-win game because a lot of times people throw a must-win game like a team is down 1-0 and they'll say, this is a must-win game. This is, by definition, a must-win game for the Nets. If the Nets do not win today, they're going home. They're going to the beach for the summer. The Sixers won the first 3 games of the series. There's no Joel Embiid. This game is close to a pick'em. I think the Nets are playing their core guys as many minutes as they can handle today. Mikal Bridges, Spencer Dinwiddie, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton if he avoids foul trouble. I think we're seeing bigger minutes than normal, which was the case last game as well. We saw Mikal Bridges ended up playing 43 minutes last game. We saw Cam Johnson end up getting 44 minutes last game. So with that in mind, who are you looking at from the Nets, knowing that it seems like there's a pretty good chance that these core guys are going to be playing like 42 to 44 minutes?
Yeah, you got to play them. I mean, the only chance this team, I think one of these guys doesn't play 40 plus minutes or foul trouble or like immense blowout one way or the other. Either they're up 25 or down 25. We've been seeing these playoff teams play their rotation players a little bit more. Even with the 3-point shot, I think it seems like the magic number. If it's like 25, they're going to the bench. Like we saw it in Game 2 in Milwaukee and Miami. They just were getting absolutely waxed by the Bucks just knocking down every 3. And it's going to put a situation where I think it's safe to even project these guys to 41, 42 minutes. They played 43 minutes last game. Mikal Bridges played 43. Dinwiddie played 42, I believe. They're going to be asked to play every single minute. I love going to Mikal. I love going to Dinwiddie. I love going to Cam Johnson just because of the minutes they're going to play. I'm not sure what Claxton minutes could look like. They could certainly go small with Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith. So he's the one guy I'm a little skeptical of. I know he got ejected there and he played 28 minutes and he was on his way to playing around mid-30s. So that's the only guy who I'm not sure what the minutes could look like. There's a good chance they could go small with O'Neal and DFS. So I think he's a fine tournament play, but I like going to Cam, Dinwiddie, and Mikal Bridges in pretty significant fashion.
And then one other follow-up question on the Nets. If you could only play one of them, which Nets player would you choose today?
I'm going to go with Kyle Kuzma's boy, Spencer Dinwiddie.
You're going with Din Shitty himself?
Dim Shitty, yeah. Dim Shitty
Island.
What a random beef among the most mid players in the
NBA. Yeah, you and I were talking about it. It's like it was entertaining, but I'd prefer it happen between 2 more relevant players as opposed to it's like Kyle Kuzma saying like, hey, what have you done? And well, all right, Kyle Kuzma won a championship, so he calls out Dinwiddie as if he's got some higher standing. But at the same time, too, like Kuzma isn't in the playoffs this year, and he is a player who's looking at signing a really big contract, and Dinwiddie is fine. Do you remember the thing where Dinwiddie wanted to be paid in like crypto and was trying to sell shares of his contract?
Oh, I didn't know he was trying to sell shares of his contract. I know he did get paid in crypto.
Yeah. He was trying to sell shares of his contract in ETH or something like that. And then the NBA Players Association stepped in and wouldn't let him sell shares of his contract.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So Dinwiddie, I have some exposure to him. My most rostered Nets player, though, not this is going to come as a massive surprise to anybody, but Mikal Bridges, it's just so many minutes. And he's been such a revelation since being traded for Kevin Durant. Looks like the Nets really found themselves a future star here. At this point, I would be fairly surprised if Mikal Bridges is not an all-star next year. I think he's also somebody who's going to garner a lot of interest for most improved player of the year next year. Mikal Bridges is on his way to being a very, very good NBA player. And he's shown that he could be a number 1 guy for a team like he is for the Nets right now. So Mikal Bridges is the net that I have the most exposure to. Then behind him, it's Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, and then Spencer Dinwiddie for me. Are there any low-owned Nets that you like getting to?
I think any of one of those starters are fine. Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith just won't be taking shots. Like it should be back and forth among Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, and Spencer Dinwiddie. It wouldn't shock me if they combined for 60 shots in this game. Like they're gonna win or go home. I mean, what else are you gonna do? Just have your best offensive players take the best shots, and there's a better chance of you winning games. It pisses me off when like there's possessions in the NBA playoffs when your best player doesn't touch the ball. Like, what are you doing? Like, what does Josh Okogie think? Who do you think he is just to pass the ball to Booker or Kevin Durant? Like, he's certainly not him. Like, he just gotta give the ball to KD and Booker and let them cook. So, yeah, I think Cam Johnson, Dinwiddie, Mikal Bridges are completely fine.
Considering this injury situations we have later on today, it's hard for me to really want to get to any contrarian Nets players because they're kind of thin plays and there's just going to be potential for much better players that open up later. So not a spot that I'm going to as far as the contrarian Nets go. Next game, Phoenix Suns against the Los Angeles Clippers. And, as far as the Suns go, we do have Campaign listed as questionable. Whether he's in or out, I don't think it massively impacts the slate because we have value elsewhere. But it's kind of hard for me to really get to any of the mid-range guys from the Suns that I've been playing on some other slates like Torrey Craig or DeAndre Ayton because they're just such better players to get to in other spots. Now, as far as pay-up options go, Kevin Durant, there's enough value where you could get to him. Same goes for Devin Booker. But I'm not really prioritizing any of the Suns at the moment. Are there any Suns for you that are making into a high percentage of lineups?
Not a high percentage, no. Just because of like they're the team that's healthy, and
Yeah,
that's all I need to say. That's probably why I'm not getting to them. Therefore, they're appropriately priced for this playoff slate, and there's no pricing mistakes that we can't take advantage of. With that being said, can Durant pop off? Can Booker keep dropping 45 a game? They certainly can. That's why they make for excellent tournament plays. They're just not coming in significant fashion like we touched on with Brooklyn, like Philly, potentially Memphis and Milwaukee. So that's why I'm just not getting to them just because of the rotation and the guys being healthy. That's just the only reason why. Therefore, if you want to take some chances on them, I certainly think they can certainly be optimal because of like the sure star power and sure usage KD and Booker can get. Chris Paul took 18 shots last game, was very inefficient, 5 of 18, but 18 shots is still a lot of shots for Chris Paul. I still prefer going to Booker or KD rather than CP3.
and we have some questions here related to the 76ers and max amount of players allowed in lineups. JEW asking most amount of 76ers you would want for the first game for DK single entry, and Black Mamba also asking about player limits. I right now have 4 76ers players in my highest projected lineup that I'm going to be playing in single entry as well. So that's where I'm at 4. But is there a maximum number of Sixers that you'd be willing to get to in a DK lineup?
So this gets tricky on this specific slate here, just because of the potential news that could open up. And I think, yeah, 4 is fine. I'm sure if we get some like the starting lineup, that'll solidify it because then you'll get some cheaper options. But yeah, I think 3 or 4 is okay. But I'm more inclined to be on the lower side today just because of the potential news that we might get.
Fair. Totally makes sense. I'm always, when everybody says that they want to leave lineup spots open for late swap later, I'm always an advocate of that. Never have an issue. The Thunder is asking me for my favorite players in DK tier. So yeah, we'll run that back. Tier 1 is, as of right now, Giannis. If Giannis gets ruled out, then it becomes Anthony Davis for me. Tier 2 is Kevin Durant. Tier 3, James Harden. Tier 4, Bam Adebayo. Tier 5, Tyrese Maxey. Tier 6, Nick Claxton. So the Thunder. Hope that helps you build out your tiers lineups there. Now, getting back to the Suns, are there any role players to look at in your opinion? Because to me, the answer is just no. I don't want to play the guys like Josh Okogie, Bismack Biyombo. There's slates where I think we could have made a case to take a shot on some of these guys in large field tournaments. It's just not the day for that. This is probably because of what the reason you said before. We've got like one healthy team today. It's the Phoenix Suns. It makes them the least interesting team really to get to on the entire slate, despite all the star power they have. Is there anything you're seeing as far as a bench player goes that could stand out from Phoenix?
Bench players on Phoenix now. I think it's just, I don't think I need to do that. I think there's just like a team that's healthy. And do you know, did you bring up the campaign situation?
Yes. Yeah, just talked about him being questionable, and
Yeah.
it's mattered to me on other slates. But what I was saying before is that it's just not that impactful for me today. Like if he plays, I'm not going to get exposure to him. If he sits out, I'm not going to be playing Landry Shamet over some of the value we have elsewhere. So it's just not all that impactful considering the other options we have today, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely think what you said. Sorry, I just we got the 76ers starting lineup that's throwing me off the ball here. But yeah,
All good. By the way, I'll read that off right now. And luckily, it's the starting lineup you and I were expecting before, which is the best because it means I don't have to change anything. The worst is when we get that starting lineup for like 20 minutes to go in live before lock, and then I'm trying to host the show and do everything and also update my laps. Not going to have to do that today. James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker, Paul Reed. The outcome here, Paul Reed, we already liked a lot as a value play. This just solidifies his playing time. He's the best overall value play in the slate, in my opinion.
yeah, let's go B-ball Paul Reed. Let's ride.
There we go. So we got that starting lineup. We already touched on it, and that's nice. We're not going to have to amend anything. So we talked about the Sun side of the game. And did you have anything else you wanted to add about campaign, by the way?
Mm, no, I just don't know how many minutes if he were to be healthy. It's a back injury. He's doing some more cardio work and shooting based on the last notes from yesterday. So I think he'll play if he's healthy. So, but no, on the slate, I don't think it's necessary to even take some chances on him.
Yep, we are on the same page there. And by the way, the starting lineup for the Nets just came out, and the Nets are starting. Let me see, was there anything weird in that lineup? It is the normal starters for the Nets: Dinwiddie, Bridges, Johnson, DFS, Claxton. Nothing crazy there in the Nets starting lineup. And I assume that is the last of the news that we're going to get before lock. So let's move on and talk about the Clippers. No Kawhi Leonard. He is not going to be playing. No Paul George. He hasn't played at all in the playoffs. Been a tough run of luck for the Clippers, basically the entirety of the Kawhi Leonard and Paul George era there. And Kawhi was playing so well. So it's unfortunate he got injured while he did, especially because the Clippers won game one. Although for you and I, who have bets on the Suns going forward for the futures, maybe not the worst outcome for our bankrolls individually. But for today, here's what really impacts DFS in the absence of Kawhi Leonard. Norman Powell, despite an uptick in price, projects extremely well, and he's expected to be one of the most popular players on the entire slate. I don't think anybody's going to push back against wanting to roster Norman Powell. But relative to his ownership, Ryan, do you think he is over-owned, under-owned, or appropriately owned?
I think he's appropriately owned. Where I think 40%. If I get 40% of Norman Powell, makes a lot of sense. Just checking out Norman Powell across the board. Yeah, I don't expect him to go 15 to 23 again. That is one of the best playoff performances Norman Powell will ever have in his life. So, but I do expect the usage to be there, the minutes to be there, as long as this game stays close. So, if I was building one lineup, do I play Norman Powell? I think so. I think Norman Powell falls in my one lineup I build. I think I'll take those usage and minutes at that price tag. So that's where I stand with Norman Powell.
41 minutes last game, 31.5% usage rate. He even if he shot instead of 15 to 23, let's say he goes a more modest 10 of 23, but he's still crushing relative to his price point from last game and this game. So good piece of chalk, in my opinion. If you guys are playing cash games today, play Norman Powell. Kind of a no-brainer there. Now, as for the other players on the Clippers, we're dealing with Russell Westbrook today because he also benefits from the absence of Kawhi Leonard, but a little bit more pricey now. Russell Westbrook. Westbrook is now $9,000 over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, we've got Westbrook priced up to $9,900. A couple of years ago, $9,900 for Westbrook. That's nothing. But he has not been quite as consistent from a fantasy output in recent years as he was in the past. So the price point on Russ, $9,900 on FanDuel, $9,000 on DraftKings. Is he still somebody you're looking to pay up for?
Yeah, definitely. I like going to Russ Westbrook in significant fashion yet again. I just think the minutes, the usage, I think arguably he's probably $1,000 too cheap for the minutes he's playing. He's going to be taking a bunch of shots, just running the show. It's like OKC Russ, 2015, 2016, post KD Russ. We're seeing this happen over the last, at least the last game we had. And we were talking about this pre-show. He's been the most impressive defender on Kevin Durant in some time. And like, he's been able to limit KD a little bit. You're not going to completely shut down Kevin Durant ever, but Westbrook has done everything he has been able to do on the defensive end. The best defense I've seen Russ Westbrook play since like the Olympics. This has been really impressive from Russ. So I like going to Russ a lot in DFS. I think he's an outstanding play on Yahoo. If I'm building one lineup, it's ridiculous as it sounds. I like going to Westbrook and Norm Powell.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with that at all. And just because some people are asking about it and ownership, now that Paul Reed is in the starting lineup, he is the most popular player on DraftKings, projected for 63% ownership. He's the most popular player on FanDuel, projected for 53% ownership. So north of 50% ownership for Paul Reed on both sites. I'm overweight to Paul Reed at the moment, even with that, even with that ownership.
And I think like looking at the opportunity cost at center today, we don't have like a Jokic, Embiid, let alone Cat. It's like Bam Adebayo, and then potentially Brook Lopez with no Giannis. So, and DeAndre Ayton, who's just I don't understand the shots he misses like around the rim. He's like Andre Drummond, like esque of late in the series. But I think taking some chances on those guys it doesn't make sense. That's why I just would ride with Paul Reed.
And then when we talk about the Clippers, you and I both, I think we make case for Westbrook. Powell is the best overall player on the team to get to for DFS purposes today. Anybody else you want to take shots on as far as the Clippers go? I find the rotations fairly difficult to figure out.
Yeah, I think the rotation is really difficult. They closed with Terrence Mann playing the 5 last game, so they closed with an awesome like guard, like back, like who's like I think it was Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, Terrence Mann, Norman Powell, and Russell Westbrook was their closing lineup, and they were just guards against like this Phoenix like Goliath team, and they were made it close. Bones Highland was a 3 away, in and out 3 from making it a 1 possession, 2-point game there in the last 30 seconds. So it was that shot was halfway down and came out, but since I don't know what the rotation looks like, I feel the most confident in Eric Gordon's minutes, Norman Powell's minutes, and Russell Westbrook's minutes. Everyone else's minutes, it is just up for grabs. I think they could even throw in Marcus Morris to get more minutes to the point where you can mix and match. Zubac barely played in the second half, and that's concerning. And they just let Norman Powell and Russell Westbrook just isolate and operate. And that's how much usage they got. I think I'm just going to go back to those 2 guys. Everyone else seems like Tyler's just trying every trick in the bag, trying to get out something. And he's done an excellent coaching job against this Goliath Phoenix team.
And some additional notes. This is for tomorrow, but Marcus Smart is uncertain to play tomorrow. Marcus Smart, questionable. Apparently hurt his ass. He's got a tailbone injury. So keep on the lookout for that. Marcus Smart looks like he's going to be questionable for tomorrow. And want to touch back on our sponsor. We're sponsored by PrizePicks today. I mentioned before, you guys haven't signed up there, use the link we have below. Up to $100 bonus on your first deposit, and you'll get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up over there. And I want to ask you about some props over there because I'm looking at our projections. We've got NBA Bet Pro. We've also got our Pick'em package. So you guys are playing on PrizePicks, No House Advantage, Underdog, these sites, and you want projections for them. We've got projections right now for PrizePicks, for NBA, for NHL, for MLB, all in our Pick'em package. And if you're signing up for the first time using the link we have below, get access to this for as low as less than $5. Pretty good deal, Ryan, especially because it's going to pay for itself and help you make money over on PrizePicks. You just sign up with all our different links, getting lots of good value, and it's all stuff that I think is going to return you guys a profit. But what would you be doing with some of these props? Like our number 1 projected number right now is under 8.5 assists for Jrue Holiday. And I do think if Giannis plays, that under looks great. But would you be more apt to just avoid some of these unders that look good on the Grizzlies and Bucks players right now just because of the uncertainty with Morant and Giannis?
Yeah, out of any sport coming down to player props, I think questionable players in the NBA. If you have a surefire, if you know Giannis is going to play, like if your gut instinct is being that way, then sure, take the under. But I'm usually hesitant, especially with NBA news, player props and like player usage, and the data that we predict changes so much with even one starter being out, let alone one rotation player being out, even off the bench. So I'm always skeptical targeting teams if I don't have their full injury report right away.
So let's find some of the props that look good then, kind of regardless, but we don't have to worry too much about the injuries. And one that stands out to me that I'm curious to get your input on here, Ryan, Austin Reeves over 4 assists. This is a guy who over the last month of play is averaging about 5.5 assists per game. He's been a massive, massive find for the Lakers, kind of out of nowhere. It's been the silver lining of the injuries to LeBron and AD is that they found that they have a viable role player here in Austin Reeves who was able to step up. So we have him projected for 5.4 assists. That's basically exactly what he's averaging over the last month. 4 assists seems like a pretty low prop on Austin Reeves. Do you like the over on that for a PrizePicks perspective?
Over on Austin
Over 4
Reeves,
assists.
4 assists. Our data likes it, so I gotta trust our data. So let's trust the data here. Let's take the over on 4 assists. As ridiculous as it sounds, I am skeptical of how much he's going to touch the ball with LeBron James just going to be trying to destroy Dylan Brooks today. We'll talk about that narrative, but I don't know. Yeah, I think I've been very slow to catch on to this Austin Reeves takeover, and it's burned me a lot of money, like a lot of money. So especially I think Sunday he was like 65% owned, and he puts on the best game of his life. And I'm like, damn, this guy is really him. So he said it himself. So yeah, I guess let's trust the data here. Let's go with the Austin Reeves over in our team.
A couple other ones that are projecting well for us. The Austin Reeves one we talked about, and then also Ivica Zubats under 10 rebounds. He only played 23 minutes last game. A little skeptical of his playing time. So we do project under 10 rebounds for Ivica Zubats as well as Jaren Jackson Jr. over 8 rebounds. He's actually avoided foul trouble in the playoffs, and the Grizzlies, especially with the injury to Morant, they're going to really need him to continue to avoid foul trouble beyond the court. So if we could actually keep getting these 40-ish minute games out of Jaren Jackson Jr., 8 rebounds is a pretty low line. We have him projected for 9.4 today. So if you guys want to check out more of our pick'em package, which includes PrizePicks, No House Advantage, and Underdog, sign up using the link below. If you're signing up for the first time, you could get access for less than $5. Now, we've got a super chat here from James Magruder. He wants to know, Portis and Middleton in single entry if Giannis plays. If Giannis plays, I'm definitely not interested in Bobby Portis today.
Yeah, I think that it's all pertaining to if then statement with Giannis. So let's wait till that news, and there's a chance if you can beat the book's timing, you could certainly find a way to figure that out.
Yeah, and the other thing too is he did clarify that he's assuming Giannis plays and still wants to play Portis, and that's going to be a no for me.
Yeah, I'll look elsewhere. Bobby Portis becomes an awesome play if Giannis is out. Mm-hmm. He's going to play minutes. He's going to be their lead usage guy off the bench. But if Giannis plays, he just does not look that appealing.
We've got another super chat here from Ski Mask. Highland or Melton? He already has 4 76ers.
Highland or Melton? I will go with Bones Highland just because he closed last game, and he was pretty impressive down the stretch there. And if Ty Lue wants to go small again, I don't know how long he could close with a lineup like that, or how many minutes they can play. Just like I think they could just get outsized by the end of that. But I'll go with Bones Highland. I think DeAnthony Melton's minutes seem a little skeptical, to say the least. There's a good chance that Montrezl Harrell doesn't enter the rotation, and Tucker could play at the 5, just giving Melton more time. That's one rotation aspect that we should keep in mind. How Melton can certainly get there. What's the price difference over there? Let's pull this up.
Yeah, so we have DeAnthony Melton is 3,900, Bones Highland is 4,000. So no real significant difference there. It's really just
another reason, just having another roster flexibility with Bones Highland could work out being in your favor. So I'll do the Bones Highland side.
Very close. I'm going to go with Bones Highland for a lot of the reasons that Ryan said. Also combined with the fact that you already have 4 76ers. You know, if you're playing one lineup, you've got 5 in the first game, that could become a little bit tricky, especially if you need a late swap later. So I'm going with Bones Highland. It's very close projection-wise between him and Melton, but all those other factors that are involved in your question, Bones Highland is going to be the answer for me there. Now let's get back to talking about the slate and the Milwaukee Bucks. And, you know, this is where it's kind of hard to know exactly what to make of some of these teams because, you know, Giannis is questionable. Ja Morant is questionable. If Giannis plays, would you expect him to go out and play a full allotment of minutes, or do you think they'll be a little cautious with him?
I think it'll be the whole smart take. We'll monitor his minutes, and then he'll play how much minutes he can handle in the playoffs. Look, it's the playoffs, and my gut instinct thinks they're gonna give him another day off. What is Game 4 of Milwaukee and Miami? Is it on Tuesday, or is it on? Or do they have an extended break?
I'm going to check it right now. I would assume
They
there is
play
not.
Monday. They play
Yeah, I was
Monday.
going to say because it's not a travel day, so I don't think there'd be an extended
Yeah.
break.
So they play on Monday, and the injury happened last Sunday. That would be a whole week off in 8 days, and they just took care of business so like easily in game two, where whatever game plan they drew up, Jimmy Butler was not effective, and I think they just hit so many 3 pointers. Joe Ingles and Joe Ingles had like 5 3 pointers, I believe. Pat Connaughton was in the rotation, so I think they should just rest him one more game, give him an extra couple of days to recover. Uh, and we'll see we'll see Giannis on Monday. That's my gut instinct. I certainly can be wrong. So that's how I feel how Milwaukee should handle the situation. But maybe he's all right. Maybe he gives it a go today.
I have to think they're only going to play him if he's 100%.
Yeah.
Just my kind of feeling here, and I don't think he is, which is why I think he's a little bit more likely to sit than to play. So we'll see what ends up happening later on the day with Giannis. Definitely want to be paying attention to the news, and don't be max entering contests if you have plans later. If you're a normal human being who wants to enjoy your Saturday, probably not the slate to go out and play 150 lineups because we got these scenarios later on the day. If Giannis sits though, we have Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis. These guys are kind of priced up under the assumption that Giannis could end up sitting. So the current price points we have on these guys, Drew Holiday's 8,400. Middleton is reasonably priced at 7,600. Then we've got Bobby Portis 66, Brooke Lopez 63. Do any of those price tags stand out to you if Giannis isn't playing?
I think Chris Middleton is a solid play with or without Giannis. I obviously looks much better without Giannis. I think he's going to be asked to take around, if this game is competitive and close, he'll be playing high 30s minutes. He was really impressive in terms of efficiency in game one. He shot 20 times in game one in 16 minutes, 16 shots last game. I like going to Middleton with or without Giannis, and I think he's a solid option. I like going to him. I'm playing one lineup today on FanDuel, and I think he's going to fall in my one lineup with everything, the way things stand right now.
If Giannis is to sit, this is how I would prioritize these Bucks guys in terms of how much I'd want to get them into lineups. It'd be Chris Middleton 1, Bobby Portis 2, Drew Holiday 3, Brooke Lopez 4. Lopez allowed it because he only has the center eligibility, a lack of flexibility where he could get him in. Bobby Portis is the power forward and center eligibility, would be moving into the starting lineup. But I like that we actually got a little bit of a price decrease on Middleton. Not a massive one, but still, he went from 7,700 last slate to 7,600. So it does assume some chance that Giannis sits, but because he struggled last game, we didn't really see a big price uptick there or anything. So that's how I would be approaching if Giannis ends up sitting, and we'll find out later on in the day if he's going to be in or out. On the Miami Heat side of the game, we've got pretty good looking price tag here, particularly on Bam Adebayo at $7,200 over on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, it's a little bit harder for me to get to Bam Adebayo because he's 8,000. And then also you have Paul Reed, who's center only eligible. So considering you only roster one center on FanDuel, Paul Reed just becomes a priority for me by a fairly wide margin. But on DraftKings, where Bam Adebayo is $7,200, he looks like one of the better center plays on the slate. Actually, my second most rostered center, only behind Paul Reed. What do you make of Bam Adebayo tonight and his DK price tag?
He's just, I think that he's just like casualty of Paul Reed being present on the slate. And then Nick Claxton comes in at 5,500. I think both those guys just grade out as better value options to help us jam in guys like James Harden, LeBron James, Russell Westbrook. I think all of these guys, I think it just makes a lot more, they're more viable in that sense to go that route than spending up for Bam Adebayo. Don't get me wrong, Bam Adebayo certainly has an upside that can certainly matter on the slate, but give me Paul Reed at $3,300. Hopefully Reed finds a way to play anywhere from mid 20s minutes to hopefully around 30 minutes to solidify that value. And we just work with him, and then you can play Reed and Bam in your utility spot. But I'd rather spend down to Claxton maybe. I think Claxton should potentially stay out of foul trouble with no Joel Embiid. Claxton's grading out better of a play as we near that game, 15 minutes from tip-off there. So we'll see how this ends up working out for Claxton and the crew.
My current center exposures on DraftKings is Paul Reed 1, Bam Adebayo 2, Nick Claxton 3. So those are the three that I get the most frequently at that position. Now, as for the other Heat players, it's funny. Typically in the playoffs, you think a guy like Tyler Hero being out broken hand would open up all kinds of value. And in a sense, it kind of does. It's just there's almost every other team is better value than the Heat today just because there's more significant injuries than Tyler Hero. Is there anything outside of Bam Adebayo at his price tag? Obviously, there's always going to be some interest in Jimmy Butler as a pay-up option, but are there any other role players or sources of value that you see that you like getting to from Miami?
No, I just like a team that's healthy. And I don't need to go there in significant fashion when we have three potential big name players potentially being out there, that being Embiid, Giannis, and John Morant. Seems unnecessary in a tough spot against Milwaukee on the other side of things. But I'm not getting too much much Miami, and I don't think many people will be. So it's just they're good tournament plays just because of guys like Butler and Bam putting up an upside that matters. But everyone else, like, are you going to play Duncan Robinson again? Are you going to go to Max Strus, Caleb Martin, when there are guys like Terrence Mann, who I'm more inclined to take some chances on? Mann has a better pathway to 30 minutes than guys like Caleb Martin and Kevin Love. It just seems like I don't need to go there by any means. And based on what your lineup looks like, if you fall on one Miami player, sure. But getting a couple Miami players in one lineup, it doesn't seem that intriguing to me. I don't think the upside is there for Miami today.
And we've got a question from the Black Mamba 81 in Discord. He wants to know, how much interest do we have in the Lakers-Memphis game? Who are you targeting? Good timing, because we're about to talk on that game right now. If you guys haven't done it, do us a favor by liking the video and subscribing to the YouTube channel. So here's something that scares me tonight, Ryan. I don't have a lot of exposure to the Memphis Grizzlies right now. And if Morant is to be out, like, I would want more than what I have right now, but Triple J is $8,900. Desmond Bane is $8,100. It's a tricky situation because these guys are really expensive. So I'm just not sure how much of a chance I want to take on these guys in the last game of the slate when I'm really unsure if Morant is going to play or not. So how are you approaching guys like Triple J, Desmond Bane, who are fairly expensive right now, but would clearly have an upside if Morant doesn't play?
That's one. I'm also not getting much to them as well. It's just because I think they're just falling by the wayside here with Philly looking like having some great options. They're much more. The pricing is much better on the Philly players than it is Memphis. I think they're priced appropriately, and with the Morant situation, they could potentially look really bad in sense of value wise and projection wise. So, yeah, I'm just not getting too much Memphis either. If I were to play one Memphis player, if I was building one lineup, I don't even want to play a Memphis player if I was playing in one lineup. That's just how, kind of they're not falling. They're just not projecting well enough for me today.
So let's address this a different way. If we knew right now that Morant was out, are there any Memphis players to be prioritizing if we knew that Morant wasn't playing?
Yeah, I'd be playing a lot of Desmond Bane, a lot of Tyus Jones, and the NBA villain Dylan Brooks would get into some lineups as well.
I don't even know that I would play that much of Tyus Jones at 7K on draft. Like, I would get exposure to him, but I don't know it would be all that much of him when he's currently 7K on DraftKings and 6,700 on FanDuel. It would be a playable price point, but it's not like I'd be going out of my way to jam Tyus Jones in, which is to me kind of what's the opportunity cost here, right? If you're trying to reserve lineup spots for the Memphis Grizzlies in the event that Morant doesn't play, like, I think it makes sense to do it for Bucks players. I don't know it makes as much sense for the Memphis Grizzlies because I don't want to play Tyus Jones over some of the other players that I'm currently getting exposure to. Like, if I knew for sure that Morant was out, I still wouldn't be playing Tyus Jones over James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Russell Westbrook, not on this slate anyway. So that's what kind of makes it tricky for me. But if Morant plays, on the other hand, is he somebody that you would have interest in? No pun intended by saying the other hand. But if Morant was in and he knew that, would you be rostering him for this slate?
No, I don't think so. I just prefer Harden and Russell Westbrook straight up to him. Guard positions are being soaked up with much better plays who project better. And John Morant's like one hit from the hand away from just being out for the game. I know it's not a lower body injury, but let's say if he's going up to the basket, his erratic self, and someone just fouls him on his hand, he's just going to be done for the game. That hand injury was gross. That was gross. I mean, like, I'm shocked that I think they're just giving some hope that he's going to play again, but I'd be shocked, man, if he plays. I know he was like shooting the ball, but how effective can he shoot the ball? I mean, we saw two hand injuries on Sunday, right? We saw the Morant injury and Tyler Hero injury. Tyler Hero dove on the floor and he broke his thumb, I believe. And shockingly, Grayson Allen was involved, but that's neither here nor there. But I think, yeah, I'd be shocked if John Morant plays. And I just don't think that he'd be effective. I think he'd be selfish to put himself out there if he's not going to be effective.
He was playing with his hand wrapped up last game, and by Morant standards, he kind of sucked even before he had that. Like, he was not playing well. So it's funny because I know a lot of people see on Twitter, I like to troll people who claim that the sports betting is rigged and they tweet at the books. And people are asking for a refund because John Morant had the under on his points prop and he left the game early. But he was at, like, what was it, 18 points, and he played over 30 minutes. It's not like he was really going well before then. So I'm very skeptical of, even if he's active, how effective he's going to be. So it does seem like we were on the same page as far as that goes. But let's talk about the Lakers on the other side of the game, where there's nobody I'm really prioritizing on the Lakers, but Anthony Davis is in my player pool. LeBron James is in my player pool. I think D'Angelo Russell, one of the sneakier contrarian plays of the entire slate. $5,700 on DraftKings. Who would have thought this at the trade deadline, Ryan? D'Angelo Russell is losing out on playing time and usage to Austin Reeves. And it's kind of justifiable based on the way both of them have played, but D'Angelo Russell is still somebody who can be a really important floor spacer for the Lakers, has fantasy upside. There haven't been that many contrarian plays I've liked for this slate, but D'Angelo Russell at a sub 6K price tag, I like getting to him at only 14% ownership for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think there's more upside there than the field is giving him credit for. Number two, if I have this guard I'm playing in the last game this late, it does help me with a little bit of lineup flexibility, depending on how some of the injuries break here. So D'Angelo Russell is my most rostered player in the late game. Is he somebody that you like at all for this slate?
I think he's going to be an awesome play in the late night slate, the slate that starts at 7:30 Eastern. But my only argument here is he's falling. I think there's just so many elite spend up options on the slate where you can play in the guard spot, especially on DraftKings, where you can go to Spencer Dinwiddie, James Harden, Norman Powell, Russell Westbrook. All of these guys, I think, just grade out much better in terms of optimal percentage, boom percentage than D'Angelo Russell. The only thing you're getting with Russell, you're getting some leverage with Russell, and you're getting him at a decreased ownership. That's the only reason I would like going to Russell. And also, one thing that was happening with D'Angelo Russell in that second game, he made some awful mistakes where the game would be a lot closer if he did not make some of those boneheaded mistakes that D'Angelo Russell had. So, like you said, he's losing minutes to Austin Reeves, but rightfully so. Reeves has been more impressive offensively and defensively for some time now. D'Angelo Russell certainly, where you get the 3-point bonus, he's shown the capabilities of getting hot from the outside. You expect him to play around 30 to 36 minutes, but he's about the third or fourth option now. At times on this court, he's obviously behind LeBron and AD. And then Hachimura we'll touch on Hachimura, but Shannon Sharp's calling him the Japanese Jordan. I mean, he's been absolutely amazing.
That's what they're calling him these days. They're calling him Japanese Jordan. But I have a minimal amount of exposure to Rui Hachimura. I have him in my player pool, but I'm underweight to the field. And here's the main reason why. He's getting extended minutes the last couple of games, but I don't buy into any of this. He shot 11 of 14 from the field in game one. Game two, he shot 7 of 12. If he's not making shots at that kind of clip, I think the playing time starts to dissipate for Rui Hachimura. So in my player pool, but I currently have less than 10% of him. But is he your favorite cost-saving option from the Lakers?
Yeah, I mean, you can't take away 30, 32 minutes from him. Both games, arguably in game one, him and Austin Reeves were the two best players on the court, which was ridiculous. And then he kind of single-handedly had some huge plays in the third and fourth quarter in game two that made the game a lot closer. Obviously, 5 of 6 from 3, 2 of 4 from three-point land, unsustainable. But those minutes might be real, and he's kind of making Rob Pelinka look like a genius over the last week or so.
Yeah, there's definitely been some. I mean, he saved his best games for the right time of the year because Hachimura, he had one good game in the early going to Lakers. I think it was his second or third game with the team. Then did nothing for like a month and a half and was on the fringes of the rotation. Now, he certainly resurfaced in the playoffs. Now, we didn't talk about the most important part of the Lakers, which is Anthony Davis and LeBron James, the two stars on the Lakers. Do you have a preference between them tonight? Do you like both or do you like neither?
I mean, I'm a sucker for narratives. I'm all about this LeBron James about to just erupt for his best playoff game ever against Dylan Brooks. Did you see that interview that he had? He's like, I don't want to talk about anything. We're going to have a good game. And I think he's just going to destroy Dylan Brooks. I mean, to have the audacity to like put a gun at LeBron's head the way he did, like poking the bear, like that's ridiculous. Are you like asking to die? I think LeBron James is going to dick on it. There's just no other way to say it. I think LeBron's just going to lay it down and take him to town. There's nothing else Dylan Brooks is going to be able to do. I have no idea what Dylan Brooks, who he thinks he is. He thinks he's a lot better than obviously what he actually is on the court. But yeah, it's the LeBron show. I'm a sucker for narratives. I know that's anti-data, but give me LeBron James in a narrative-based game in Game 3 tonight back at Staples.
Do you remember what was the exact Dylan Brooks quote? I remember he said LeBron is old, so he's not concerned about him. But what else did he say? Do you remember?
So in this day and age, like if you clip something, apparently he did call LeBron a legend, but he called him old. I like poking the bear or something like that. We can find the Dylan Brooks quote right
Which,
now. Which,
by the way, goes hand in hand. There are no young legends. Like Emac is a legend of DFS because he's been around forever, right? Emac did the original write-up of the Black Sox game and told everybody the best DFS options for the game. There were some questions about whether he was involved in rigging it or whatnot. That's the backstory of Emac. But legends are old. There are no legends who are 22, 23 years old. LeBron is a legend. And whenever you call somebody a legend, it is kind of a backhanded compliment because you are implying that they're old. They've been around the block. But Dylan Brooks did call LeBron old. But what else did he say in there? Did you find it, by the way?
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. He's old. You know what I mean? I was waiting for this. I was waiting for that. I was expecting him to do that in Game 4, Game 5. He wanted to say something when I got my 4th foul. He should have been saying that early on. But I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40. I think LeBron's going to give him 50. I mean,
like he's going to have to come to the post-game press conference and be like, look, I said I don't respect somebody unless they score 40 points on me. He scored 50. That's not 40. He's still old to me.
I mean, Dylan Brooks' career high is 37. Shout out to producer Jacob giving us the greatest tidbits right now. But I think this is going to be so fun to watch. I mean, LeBron just like has never had need to try like pretty much like be the offensive guy. I've always thought the most impressive LeBron James wins, obviously coming back 3-1, but the 2 games he won after Kyrie Irving blew out his kneecap, that was, I think, the 2015 finals, Game 2 and Game 3. He won that on his own. Like what he did in those 2 games were by far the most impressive LeBron James career. That didn't result in a championship. It wouldn't shock me if he just is like 0 dark 30 mode today. I think it's going to be fun to see LeBron if he wants to. He doesn't need to. The team is fine. He's probably just going to try to get the win, but I think it's going to be a fun game.
So we are just about at lock, Ryan. Do you have any final thoughts for the people before we log out here? And if not, that is totally fine. But just giving you the floor in case there's anything you want to touch on that we didn't say.
Yeah, Giannis and John Morant news is going to be really critical to the slate, potentially opening up a lot of intriguing value options for you to take advantage of. But it's going to be another fun Saturday NBA slate, potentially the last days of having 4 games on a slate for this NBA season, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe actually tomorrow might be another day of 4 games. But tomorrow, this weekend, wrapping it up, it's going to be short slates the rest of the way. I want to give a shout out to our team. They're on the most incredible heater among heaters. Steve Buzzard, Tom Kennedy, I think combined have raked in over like $500,000.
And Eddie Lai. Don't forget about Eddie.
I think that the seats at the table have been filled with lots and lots of dollar bills at the company. Well over $500,000 in profit for the C team, the C suite over here.
Yeah, so go check out all the tools we have. Our projections going to be crucial for a slate like today where we've got Ja Morant and Giannis questionable. Anytime you guys want to sign up for a package you haven't signed up for Stokastic yet, make sure to use the link that we have below. It's going to get you 50% off the first package you sign up for over at stokastic.com. Find it right below in the description box below the YouTube. So that does it for us. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you didn't do yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enjoy all the games today. Have a great weekend.